So the Olympics are on, and the opening ceremony came out. It's in France, and guess what? They decided on the world stage, in front of the whole world, as we're here to celebrate the greatest athletes on planet Earth. How should we open this ceremony? I got an idea. How about pagan, satanic, sexualization of children, and mock the number one largest faith in the world? That's what it's going to be about. And every time we can cut away to a commercial or something, we're going to have a brand new sexual perversion celebrated, and hopefully your kids will be there to see it. People keep saying, why is this happening? Here's the thing. You're going to find out today, and I'm not bragging, but just that this is the smartest analysis you're going to hear on it, and it's right here. Spoiler alert. Because they're perverts. That's it. I know. You wouldn't hear that analysis anywhere else. How does John get so smart? They're perverts. There is more to it. We're going to jump into it. That is the number one thing. However, that's not the only crazy thing happening. Number two, as you know, Joe Biden has dropped out of the race. Kamala Harris is being anointed to be the next presidential nominee for the Democrats. And if you didn't believe it already, now you know for sure that we no longer really live in an actual, democracy. A representative democracy, we are not. Yes, it seems like the deep state. Is the deep state real, Corey? Yes, the deep state is real. There is a global elite, and I think that is what is tying these two stories together. There's a lot to cover today. I'm just going to talk about, share my feelings. I might even rant a little bit because I feel a little ranty because it's so disgusting what is going on. The presidential thing is frightening. The other stuff is frightening and disgusting. And it's like, what is happening to our world? We're going to talk about it on Cooper Stuff. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Cooper Stuff. Okay, I am filming this little piece. I'm going to insert it into the podcast. When I'm done with this, it's going to go straight back to the podcast, but I got something to say. Today is Sunday the 28th. I filmed the podcast last night, which is the 27th. Some things have changed, and I need to insert this and make sure you understand some of the facts so that people don't send me a whole bunch of comments and say I'm late. This is how fast the news is changing right now. We're going to be talking about the opening ceremony to the Olympics, but I want to say some things that have changed in the last, 24 hours. I'm going to be talking about how vile I think it is, how much I think it is a mockery of Christianity. It is about the destruction of the West. We're going to share all that stuff, and yes, we're going to get into it hard. Since then, there is a lot of people, funny enough, mainly my Christian friends who are left or leaning left, that I just do not understand why, but they are reposting all this stuff saying that the opening ceremony, the drag queen performance thing, was not about the Lord's Supper. It was about this Greek god and blah, 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 blah. And it really wasn't about the Lord's Supper. And so I want you to know that as we are beginning to do this. So people are like, it's not about that. It's about a Greek god, whatever. I don't buy it for a second. I do not buy it for a solitary second. Let me read this. This is New York Times. Not a big fan. In New York Times, here's a headline. An Olympic scene draws scorn. Was it really referencing the Last Supper? And the New York Times says that art historians differ on the subject of whether it was or not. So this idea that it's ironclad, it really wasn't about it. Don't believe it for a second. I think that Tony Sumter from Cross Politic had an incredible thread on X. Go check it out. Him explaining his thoughts on it. And then he also explained why he does think that they were trying to mock the Lord's Supper. Yes, they had other elements in there. I look at it sort of like a mashup. It's a mashup of a whole bunch of different things. Certainly, I believe it was a mockery of that. Also, I want to read this from a couple of days ago. This is in Yahoo News. This is a couple of days ago before all this happened. It says this. A spokesman for the Paris Olympics said, quote, clearly, there was never an intention to show disrespect towards any religious group or belief. On the contrary, each of the tableaux in the Paris 2024 opening ceremony were intended to celebrate community and tolerance. They added it was not the first time artists had taken, quote, inspiration from Leonardo da Vinci's famous painting, adding, from Andy Warhol to The Simpsons, many have done it before. Point being, He's saying, we weren't trying to offend anybody. This isn't the first time that painting of the Lord's Supper has been used as a parody. Is that the first time that's happened? Was everybody freaking out? That is a spokesperson for the Paris Olympics. So the question to me is, why all of a sudden everybody's saying it wasn't ever really about that anyway? So I want you to understand that's what's going on. Maybe next week I will have a further explanation of why I'm so annoyed about this on the Christian left. I am really, really annoyed about it. Interesting piece of information, because my atheist friends, who I have a lot, my agnostic friends, who I have a lot, they're not saying that. They all think, yeah, this was probably partly directed towards mocking Christianity. They don't even believe our faith. My agnostic and atheist friends get it, but for some reason, my Christian friends on the left they're really, really quick to want you to know this wasn't about that. Don't say it was about the Lord's Supper. They're not mocking Christianity. I think they were. I think there is no chance in the world they weren't mocking Christianity, but I want you to know I am aware of what's going on. Now, let's jump to Cooper stuff. Welcome back to Cooper Stuff, everybody. I hope you're doing okay. I'm on the road. That's why it looks like this. It's just the way that it is. Get over it, everybody. We have two major things. I already told you, the Olympics and then the election. Things are nuts. Now, you got to understand, if you didn't already, this is a very unprecedented time we're in with the election. I'm going to talk about the election later. But it is unprecedented. That deserves its own episode. And I'm sorry I didn't give you one last week. It deserves its own episode. It's crazy. We never really seen anything quite like this. That's nuts on its own. But I got to tell you, this Olympic thing, as I've told you guys before, I am far more concerned about the degradation of culture when a society just decides to praise what is evil and to shame what is good. You are in deep trouble. You are in absolutely deep trouble. And that is far more concerning than the other. Here's what I want to do today as we start. There's lots of ways I want to start. I want to show you a 90-second advertisement for my book, because it is so very important what we're talking about today. Listen to this 70 or 80-second clip, and it's going to be a primer for our discussion. Check it out. Don't you know Christians shouldn't be political? I hear that said to me 100 times a day. Many Christian leaders won't dare say anything positive about America or the West, to the point that they won't even teach principles of liberty. They act as if freedom from tyranny is just a given, rather than something that has been fought for, bled for, and worth preserving. In fact, they sometimes act as if preserving freedom is akin to being selfish. And since Christ calls us to give up our lives for His sake, that we can't try to hold on to the benefits of our republic. But is that true? Our leaders won't whisper anything good about America because it could seem idolatrous or because it makes the kingdom too political. But have you noticed they don't mind speaking of all the bad things America has done? Apparently, that's just keeping it real. In my opinion, if they want to keep it real, they should tell all of history, good, the bad, and the ugly. But why is this? I believe that they have swallowed the narrative of this age of oppressors and oppressed groups, and the righteous thing to do is to always speak up for the perceived victim groups. And as you know, America is said to be the oppressor. The question I have for these leaders is this: what do you think will replace American democracy after the secular progressive revolution? And will we be more free or less free to live out our faith, to preach the gospel, to raise our children? We all know the answer is that we will be less free. Then I ask this: why do you think it's more pious to remain silent while the world burns? For the answer to this question and what we can do about it, you need to go get my new book, Wimpy, Weak, and Woke. Do it now at johnlcooper.com. You guys, you got to go get my book, Wimpy, Weak, and Woke. You can get it on Amazon now, johnlcooper.com. Go and get it for a friend. It will explain. I talk about this sexual stuff in the book. If you don't know what's going on, so the Olympic Games just started, the opening ceremony, they decided to go full sexual, just sexual everything. All the sexual weird stuff, all in one thing. In my opinion, culminating in the drag queens. I told you guys about 2 years ago, drag is the new black. I don't know what's going on. It's like, boom, now we're all into drag. It's the thing. This wouldn't be happening, by the way. Had 2020 not happened, we would not be here. And I'm not going to go off on a tangent of that, and I'm not even going to prove it. If you don't believe me, no worries, you don't believe me. But if you've been following, you know it's true. We would not be here now had the 2020 stuff not happened. The revolution in 2020, it was as this coalition of oppressed group, perceived oppressed groups, starting with the race stuff, starting with and then the radical feminism stuff, then starting with the pride stuff. Before 2020, most Americans had never really understood what the transgender ideology movement was all about. They did not get that. All of this has happened. All of these groups joining together. I told you 6 months ago, and I'm not bragging on Cooper stuff, but I am saying, as far as I know, we were the first podcast I heard, and I listened to a lot of podcasts, reporting on what happened. Oh, sorry, we weren't the first people reporting on October 7th, but the first people saying, what this is about, yes, it's anti-Semitism. This isn't even really about anti-Semitism. This is about a Marxist worldview about the oppressed and the oppressors, and people joining it. This is why college students in America are becoming pro-Palestine to the point that they are cheering the slaughter, the rape, the baby murder of people in Israel. You heard it here. I told you that. That's what all this is about. We would not be here. You would not be watching drag queens opening up the Olympic ceremonies if 2020 wouldn't have happened. And that is why all the people that warned us in the church about social justice, critical social justice, coming into the faith, seeping into the faith, and creating an amalgam of a sort of Christianity plus critical theory is what I would call it. Christianity plus social justice equals what we see now. Just so you know. Culminating in the Olympic ceremony. Drag queens coming out doing their weird drag stuff. Culminating into them recreating the Last Supper picture. I don't know if you've seen that. I'm not going to show it on here. Some of you have your kids watching. I don't want to show it on here. It's sick of it. But basically doing it. So you got a drag person in the front with a little, they put little halo looking thing over his head. So he's supposed to be like Jesus Christ. Absolutely blasphemy. Absolute blasphemy. Now you may ask yourself, what does this have to do with the Olympics? So that's a good question. What does sexuality have to do with the Olympics? What does drag queens have to do? What does LGBTQ have to do with the Olympics? What does the oppressed have to do with the Olympics? I thought we were here to watch people do some sports type stuff. Athletes. Well, that's a good question. What does this have to do with it? Let me explain something to you that you already know. Have you ever met that person that just started their new nutrition thing or their new workout program, and all they talk about is CrossFit, and it drives you crazy? Anything you talk about, they're like evangelists for CrossFit, or they're evangelists for keto diet. Whatever you talk about, they're like, oh, well, I know because I'm eating nothing but nuts now and almonds, or whatever their other thing. And it's a little bit annoying. I'm going to be honest. It's a little bit annoying. Okay, I'm sure I've done it though. But it's annoying. This is what happens when you discover a brand new worldview that it is the thing that consumes your thoughts. It consumes your time. It consumes your worldview. Everything in your worldview is put through a lens of the keto diet, and it is everything about healthy and this and this. And so anything somebody talks about, they're like, oh, hey, did you see that new film so-and-so? They'll be like, oh, yeah, I watched that, but I was thinking about watching it, but really what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these almonds and nuts because I'm on this brand new diet, and all I need is chicken. Whatever they do, it's brought back around. They're like evangelists. They're like trained evangelists for keto, right? Or CrossFit. Because why? They have found something in their life that is it's the thing that defines everything else. Do you know what else is like that? Christianity. Do you agree with that? We have found something now. Jesus says, if you hear my words and you obey my words, you're like a man that built his house on a rock. The winds came, the thunder came, the storms came, and they beat upon the house, but that house is not shaken. So we go, Jesus is what I build this book right here. This Bible I hold in my hand, this is what I build my life on. And every single thing you want to talk about, hey, John, what kind of food do you eat? Well, I see my diet and my exercise through what the Bible says. What about your work? I see it through that. Hey, John, how do you think we should be a good parent? Well, I'll tell you how to be a good parent because the Bible tells me. Every single thing you look at in your life, We teach our kids that, right? We go to bed with your little kids and you say your prayers before bedtime. Why do you do that? So that you are training your kids every single night as you go to bed. You take a second and you get your heart right with the Lord and you thank God for the day. Or you ask God for what you want to do. You are focusing on the creator of the universe. Why? Because he's the most important thing in the world. You just sit down and eat with your family. What do? Hey, we got to bless the meal. Why? Because we wouldn't even have the meal if it wasn't for God. He's the one that gave it to us. That is a all-encompassing, totalizing worldview. Christianity explains the world to us. My parenting, my relationships, whatever it's going to be, it is explained through my worldview of Christianity. What you have to understand is that the sexuality we're seeing right now is not a one-off. Yes, they're perverts. They're perverts for sure. It's deeper than that. They have a worldview of sexual liberation, sexual obsession, and they see everything in life through the lens of sexuality, just like you see everything in life through the lens of Christianity. That's what they do. I wrote extensively about it in my book. I'm not going to lie to you. It's probably the most 6 months of I wouldn't say I was depressed. I'm not prone to depression. That's not my thing. But I am telling you, I don't know if I felt that dragged down studying that literature. It is so perverse and it is so dark and it's not just that it's disgusting, it's disturbing. You have to understand what they believe. They believe that the reason that there is crime in the world, why is there crime in the world? Because people, and we're going to get a little bit adultish here, so if you got little kids, maybe you do want to turn this off. Why is there crime? Because people do not have good, just say the word, orgasms. That's why. That's what they write in their books. You don't have good orgasms. So if you don't have good orgasms, what do? It causes you to steal. It causes you not to want to go to work. Why do people not want to go to work and do a good job? Because they have sexual repression. Why? Because they're not having good orgasms. I know people are going to be like, John, please don't say anymore. I'll try my best not to say anymore. It's just that you have to understand that's what they say. And when you hear them say it, it hits you with the shock of it. So I'll try not to say it again, but you do have to hear the shock of it so you understand. This is coming from Wilhelm Reich, who coined the term the sexual revolution. The 1960s sexual revolution was based on his book that came out in 1935-ish. This is the reason people steal. It's the reason that people don't go to work. It's the reason that when they do go to work, they're not fulfilled by their jobs. You don't need a new job. You just need to get yours. And as soon as you do that and you liberate yourself, you're going to be good. Now, this sexual repression isn't just about you going, well, I'll decide what's good for me. No. Marriage is bad. Monogamy is bad. They said that basically having a man and a woman, monogamous in marriage, one sex partner for the rest of your life is actually bad for you. And if that's what you do, then you are repressed, but you just don't know it. And not only that, because these people were also not just into Freud, they were into Marx. It can't be something that just one person does. It can't just be that you liberate yourself sexually, or you. Everybody has to do it. Why? Because it's all about the community. It's not about the individual. It's about the collective. Everybody has to do this, and we have to create a society where everybody is 100% sexually active and liberal. Here's the problem. The problem is this. If you don't let your children be sexually free, then they have all this repression, and then they're 18 and they're all screwed up. Why are they screwed up? Because you didn't let them be sexually free. So what do we have to do? We have to sexualize children. We have to make sex literally from day one out of the womb. You've heard these people. That's why these doctors from medical associations, or federal medical associations, come out and say, well, babies usually know they're trans even in the womb. Even in the womb, they know they're trans. They have to sexualize kids. Why are they doing this at the Olympics? Well, because let's just say that there was going to be a Christian Olympics. Do you think that we, Christians, people like me and people like you watching the show, do you think if we were doing Christian Olympics that we would probably want to say, hey, we're going to have an opening ceremony. What's the number one first thing we should do? Well, I think it's kind of like eating a meal. I think what we probably do is we first start by recognizing that whatever gifts we have to run far, to throw far, to do a sport, whatever gifts we have are given to us from a creator. So we want to pay homage to that creator. In other words, if I had Christian Olympics, probably that the way I start it is probably with a prayer. It's probably with a not just a blessing, but saying, God, thank you that you gave us the ability. We want to recognize that you gave us these gifts for your pleasure. Do they bring me pleasure to have my gift to run far? Of course it does. But really, that's not what it's about. It's about your pleasure. You created me. It's just like in that film, the great film, dun, 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 Chariots of Fire, based on a true story of Eric, was it Little? I don't know how you say it. What does he say at the end of that film? God created me to run fast. And when I run, I can sense his pleasure. That's what he says in the film. One of the all-time great movie lines ever. He created me to run fast. And when I run, I can sense his pleasure. I probably would start the Christian Olympics with a prayer because everything in life is directed towards a worldview that this world belongs to him. And God tells me where I belong. I know where I fit. So what do these people do? They do the same thing, except it's not directed towards the pleasure of God. It's directed towards the pleasure of man. Everything they see is through it. Let's read the words of Jesus. Most famous verse in the Bible, John 3:16. This is Jesus talking. For God so loved the world, he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. Most people know that, but let's go to the next verse. For God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only Son of God. Now here's the doozy. You ready? Verse 19. And this is the judgment. The light has come into the world, and people loved the darkness rather than the light, because their works were evil. For everyone who does wicked things hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his works should be exposed. We are dealing with people who hate the light. We love those people. We are commanded to love these people, to pray for these people. We want these people to get saved, but they hate the light. They love the darkness. They are doing deeds of the darkness. And what do we know about when you begin to do deeds of darkness and you reject the voice of the Holy Spirit in your life? What begins to happen? Can you remember your Bible stories? What begins to happen when the voice of the Holy Spirit is impressing on your conscience, or you heard the word of God preached, and in that moment you rejected Christ or whatever it is, and you begin to love evil more? What happens? God hardens your heart. He gives you over to that degradation. He gives you over to that sin, whatever it is, and you begin to believe in delusions, and you begin to love the things of darkness in a way that you didn't love them before. You begin to love them so much that you begin to trade evil for good and good for evil. We talk about this podcast a lot. That means you begin to see evil things and say, that's really good. Whoa, we need to celebrate it. Like what? We need to have drag queens come on and then bring some little kids, like some 12-year-old kids, and have them little girls, and this happened. You can see the video on there's a thing, an account on X and Insta called Gays Against Groomers. And Gays Against Groomers is an account basically run by somebody who, I believe she's a lesbian, but she does not like the grooming that is happening. It's very interesting thing to see. You can see some of the footage. So we have drag queens, which already is a really, really good thing. And we need to celebrate it. In fact, we need to celebrate. Why do we need to celebrate? Well, how do I know they want to celebrate it? Because it's the Olympics. It's a worldwide event. A worldwide event. There's only a few things that ever happen worldwide. A worldwide event where all of the nations come together, and this is our big thing of who we are as planet Earth. We don't want to celebrate evil at planet Earth. We want to celebrate good things. What are the good things that I can think of? Drag queens. And we're going to get them dancing with some 12, 13-year-old kids. Why? Because that's good in their minds. Because they love the darkness. They've traded good for evil and evil for good. Now, we're going to move past the Bible stuff and let's just talk about a little bit of social science of this. I already said this today, you may have heard it, but just think about it. Think about why we need to stand up against this abhorrent sickness. There's lots of reasons we have to stand up for it, but let's just say that you're talking to somebody who's not a Christian. Or maybe they are, sort of nominal in their faith. And they don't like all this. So you guys are sounding all crazy. I don't want to yell at the world. If the world's going to do it, we don't need to be like that. Then let's talk about some social science. Do you not see the world they want to create? Their idea of tolerance is that you, parent, with your kids going, this is going to be fun, make some popcorn. We're going to watch the greatest athletes on planet Earth. We're going to watch the opening ceremony where we celebrate the world, all the nations of the world actually coming together to do something positive, which almost never happens. Make the popcorn, get the kids, we're going to watch it. Boom. Sexuality. Drag queens. They had storylines of threesomes and trans. Who? God only knows. Sorry, my nose is itching today, but my allergy is going crazy. Sit down and watch it. And if you as a parent go, oh my gosh, kids, I don't want you watching this. Well, then you're not tolerant. You're a bad person. You're the reason the world is so bad. You're the reason that we have to... This is just so crazy. You're the reason that there is so much polarization and intolerance. What do you hate people? You hate drag queens? Is that your problem? Oh, I see. You're a homophobe or a transphobe. You're not tolerant. This is their idea of tolerance. You're taking something that we used to all celebrate together, and you're saying, hey, people, you, Christian with your kids, or maybe not even Christian. I've got one of my really good atheist friends or agnostics, and I'm not sure which one he is, just decided to go on a rant this week for the first time about the evil, the sexualization of the kids, and how sick of it he is. I was like, hey, welcome to the party. I love it. Welcome to the Christian party. These global elites that are putting on this stuff are saying to you and to my agnostic friend who is joining the party that he's sick of this sexualization of our kids, they're saying to us, we do not like you. We do not like your values. We do not like your religion. We think you are backwoods. You are a redneck. You are the problem. You are the reason we haven't entered into utopia and equality and equity. Because if you just unleash sexuality for children, the world is going to change for the better, and you are in the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to press our worldview down on top of you, our perverse worldview that trades good for evil and evil for good. We're going to push it on top of you. And when you say, hey, actually, sorry guys, that's not my values. I don't want my kids watching it. We're going to berate you as an intolerant person. So now tolerance means that you have to tolerate perversion. But tolerance also means that they get to mock our faith. In other words, they don't have to be tolerant to Christians. They don't have to be tolerant to Catholics. The question arises, is that the kind of world you want? Even if you're not a Christian watching Cooper stuff, cool. Is that the world that you want to live in? Where it's okay to bash the religion that founded all of Western civilization. These individual liberties that you hold so dear, and you're really happy that you get to speak what's on your mind up on your social media, up in this piece. You do know that came from Christianity. So there's a lot of people that aren't Christians that are saying, one of the biggest people right now is Elon Musk. He's saying, if Christians don't fight back against this stuff, Christianity will die and the West will die with it. Thank you, Elon Musk. He said that just this week. What is that? It's 9 months after my book came out. This says the same thing. I don't think Elon Musk is reading my book. But he should. So the question becomes this: is that the world you want to live in? Is that the kind of tolerance that you want to live in? Ask yourself this: why didn't they, instead of doing the drag queens portraying Jesus, why don't they do a drag version of Allah? Why don't they do a drag version of Muhammad? Why don't they make fun of the Muslim God? Can you imagine a reason why they wouldn't do that? It goes back to the same thing as we said about October 7th. There's lots of reasons they won't do that. Let me tell you the first reason it is right here, getting back to spiritual. The number one reason why they won't mock the Muslim God, and instead they're going to mock Jesus Christ, is this: if you were a demon, which one would you like better? Think about it. If you were the devil or a demon, do you think that you would get super, super duper excited about somebody mocking Allah, who we Christians do not believe is God? We believe that's a false God. So under our theology and under the book that we all believe in, do you think the demons are like, oh, I'm so excited, we made fun of Allah? No, they don't care. It's like making fun of Zeus. Oh, we made fun of Thor. They don't care about that. Do you think they might get a little bit of pleasure of making fun of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, who made a mockery of them on the cross? Woo! Made a public display, a mockery of the powers of evil, who thought they had killed the Son of God, and he made a mockery, and he broke in to the devil's house, a strong man, the Bible says, and he bound him up, he broke in, and he took back the nations as his own possessions. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Glory to God, glory. I'm all pumped up. You think they might get a little bit of a kick out of making fun of that God? The one true God? That's the biggest reason. But again, let's go back. Social science. Let's say that you don't believe in Jesus. Okay, cool. I'm glad you're watching. Ask yourself, why don't they make fun of somebody else's God? Why does it have to be Jesus Christ? Why does it have to be the Christian religion? There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, it's because they hate the West. That's what my book is about. They want to tear down America, the West, because they hate Christianity. They hate Christianity. And they understand that Christianity and Western civilization is tied together. This is what I'm so sick of, the big EVA, the evangelical elites. They're squishy and they're weak, and they never stand up when they need to stand up. Now, lots of them do, but the ones I'm talking about never, ever do. As soon as you say something like Christianity and Western civilization they're intertwined, they start freaking out about Christian nationalism. I'm not talking about that. What I'm saying is that the foundations of Western civilization come from the Bible. Everybody knows that. Everybody has said that. So yeah, they want to tear it down. Making fun of Allah doesn't tear down Western civilization, so what's the point? Also, they have to have this coalition, this grouping of all oppressed people. That's why they have Queers for Palestine and stupid stuff like that that makes no sense, because you could not live an openly queer life in Palestine for 5 minutes, okay? Under Sharia law, you would be put to death, all right? You can't do that. So why do they do that? Because they have to have all of their oppressed groups come together and they join. It's like Voltron. You remember Voltron? Or like, I don't know, Power Rangers or something like that. You know, those great like Asian like things. There's all these like little robots, but then they all join together to form a big giant robot. Love Voltron, Defender of the Universe. They're like Voltron. They all have their own little gang, but then they all join together, so they are a coalition of oppressed groups fighting against the oppressors. And that is why it is so shameful that the big evangelical elites, the evangelical regime leaders, why they never spoke against critical social justice in 2014 and 2015 as all the BLM stuff was riling up. They did not have the sight to see that this was never about equality. This was never about justice. This was about overturning the American project. How they didn't know that, maybe they even did. A lot of them don't like America anyway. It's true. So that's the reason. So let's just say you're not a Christian watching. I don't know about all this. Well, they are trying to ruin the country you live in. The question is this: do you think that this country is worth preserving? If so, then you can't celebrate this sort of disgusting degradation. It is meant to destroy. Now let's move on to the other shocking thing. Why I'm saying these things come together. Because what is happening is, man, my nose is itching. There is a cabal of global elites. They do not believe in representative democracy. They do not believe in any democracy for that matter. They believe in top-down rule, some sort of one world socialism. The Great Reset, all these don't care what you call it. It is a one world socialistic group where there is not private property, where there is forced equity, meaning that, hey, you have too much. We're going to take from you and give it to somebody else. But you take that idea and you put it on a global scale. So we're no longer talking about American politics, where the Biden administration or the Harris administration, presumably, which according to her own words, would say, you wealthy person, or you middle class person, you got too much stuff. We are going to come in and take away your things and give it to someone else so that there's equity. Equity means not equality. Equity means everybody has the same thing. We call it equality of outcomes, not equality of opportunities. It is equality of outcomes. There's a really famous clip of Kamala Harris saying that a couple of years ago. She even says it. She says equality is not what we're going after. Equality just means everybody has the same opportunities. We want equity, which means, in her own words, look it up and tell me if I'm lying. In her own words, everybody ends in the same place. Her own words. Take that, put it on a global scale. Well, you Americans have too much. We are going to take what you have in America and transfer it to, say, Africa. Transfer it to wherever it is. You Americans are eating too much food. You eat too much meat. We are going to clamp down on you and disallow you to eat that meat because you're killing the world with your meat because all the farts. So you get rid of the meat, and then we're going to take that, either send it out to someone else, or we're going to control your diet so that there is equity and climate justice, quote unquote. Please see the dreaded square air quotes on justice. There is a giant cabal of global elites pushing this. They are perverts. We see it. You saw, remember last year with the whole, I wrote about it in my book. What was that group in France? Funny enough, it was in France, I think. I keep thinking of Beliagos. What is that really ritzy, boutique clothing line? Beliago or something? Somebody send the thing. You know what I'm talking about. They did the photo shoot for like their things, and they had like a kid passed out on a couch with a teddy bear, and the teddy bear had like sexual S&M bondage gear on. Do you remember this? All the weird sexualization they do of kids. These global elites, yes, they are socialist/communist. Yes, they want to enslave you. Yes, they hate Christianity. Why? Because Christianity stands in the way of their power. We discussed that 2 weeks ago. Christianity stands in their power because they have to be all authoritative, just like the communists were. Christianity stands against them because Christianity says, no, there's a higher law than you. And if it comes down to obeying Christ or Caesar, meaning you, global elites, commies, I have to obey Christ. They can't have that. So they are against Christianity. So you know that. They got to do it way with Christianity. They're also perverts. They believe in sexual utopia, as I described it earlier. So all of these global elites have to descend in order to control things. How does that have to do with what is happening with Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris? We saw something totally unprecedented. We already knew there was a deep state. We already knew there was a cabal behind the scenes. Everybody knew that had two eyes. That President Biden isn't with it. Someone else is running the country. He can barely talk. We know that. Now we know it for sure. Because Kamala Harris is the anointed DNC nominee. Has never been voted for one single time. If you're a Democrat voter, you never had a chance to vote for Kamala Harris or not this election. Never. And then what happened after that? I told you a couple weeks ago about the propaganda of the media. The media is so wicked. Did you see what happened? The minute The minute that they anointed Kamala Harris, what happens? The media went, oh my gosh, she's radiant. She's the best thing we've ever seen. I can't believe what a leader. I even saw Chuck Schumer of the Democrat senator. Is he Senator or House? Can't remember. Chuck Schumer actually said, Kamala Harris is a person, she has risen up from the bottom up. They just lied to you. The blatant amount of lies, they're not even trying to hide it. I mean, they went from everybody knowing she's a terrible candidate. People do not like Kamala Harris. From all the polling, we know that. If you remember in the 2020 primaries, she got skunked. I covered it in 2020. The reason being is because after she dropped out, people were saying it was because they're racist. They're just not ready for a black woman. I covered on 2020 because I had the receipts. And guess what? Black voters did not like Kamala Harris. They just didn't. They liked Biden more than Kamala Harris. That's just the way it is. She had like 3% of the vote. Didn't even make it to Iowa. Black voters didn't like Kamala Harris. So they go straight into this propaganda. So what you're seeing now is the propaganda machine literally within days move into Kamala Harris is the best thing that's ever happened. She's amazing. She does all this work, and the lies hit you so quick and so bold and so fast. What it means is this. It means they're not even trying to hide it. They're not even trying to cover their tracks. They're just changing reality. This is full state-run propaganda. I don't know another way to say it. That is commie town. And I actually mean commie town literally this time. I usually say it as a pejorative because it's fun. I actually mean it. This is how communist dictators were running their propaganda machines. They say, the sky isn't blue, it's red. And enough people began to say it that normies would be like, well, maybe the sky is red. And if somebody said, no, it's not, it's blue, boom, you get to go to the gulag. So we're going to retrain you. We're going to reprogram your brain so that, now here's the thing, not just so you say what we want you to say, we're going to reprogram your brain so that you actually believe that the sky is red. You see there's a difference? We're not just going to reprogram you like you say it or else. We're going to reprogram you to the degree that you go, I actually think it might be red. If you've ever read the book 1984, it's the same thing. They're torturing this guy so that he sees there's a possibility that 2 + 2 actually could equal 5. All you got to notice is, can you see that it's possible? It actually is within the realm. They believe that with enough people saying it, they can actually they can alter reality and make you actually forget. The propaganda machine in full force. And as soon as this happened, I said to my friend, one of my church leaders actually, he said, what do you think about this Kamala Harris stuff? I said to him, what I am most concerned about is that over the last 6 months, 8-9 months, we've gotten a little bit away from all of the insane race stuff, like the crazy, you're a racist if you do this and this and this, systemic racism, all white people have, all that stuff that we said, and Christian people were saying it, people like Matt Chandler, who people are like, no, he's a really conservative theologian. Well, Matt Chandler was all in on the social justice, white privilege stuff. All those people they just were. If you have white skin, you just need to listen, and you just need to concede that you actually are involved in racism, whether you know it or not. That stuff died down for a while. And I said to my church leader, I said to him, I'm telling you, this is the day it all happened. I'm telling you, count the number of days to where Big Eva, our evangelical, squishy, weak leaders are going to come out and start the race stuff all over again. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. Why do I know it happened? Because I remember in 2020, even though very few black voters liked Kamala Harris, did not vote for her, said they did not trust her, did not like her, it didn't matter. The media went full, it's because she's black. And I know these Christian leaders are going to do it. Why? Because the evangelical elites that I'm talking about, they are Democrats. It's not just they're Democrats, they are leftist. That's just the way it is. Now they might go, no, I'm pro-life. That's a longer discussion on whether they're actually pro-life or not, to be honest. But even if they are pro-life, they are very, very left, except on the pro-life issue. I will give them that. They're not progressive, shout your abortion types. That's true. Very fair. I think they truly don't like abortion. They'd like to see it lessened. Is that fair to say? I'm not trying to be rude. I don't think they want it abolished. I think they want it lessened. All right? Just a lot less of it. I think that's what they want. Even if they want it gone, besides that one issue, they are just leftists. That's just the way it is. They're pretty into the redistribution stuff. They're into the open border stuff. They're into all the refugee stuff. They're into so much of this. And what happened already, you can see it. They're all jumping on the Kamala Harris train. And you're already seeing all the racist stuff. It's been in the New York Times. I just read the New York Times came out with an article about all of this. All the racist stuff is coming up because people don't like Kamala Harris. These people are wicked. They are. They're just, the media is wicked. We need evangelical leaders to stand up. Thank God there are so many faithful pastors. I get messages from pastors on this show all the time. I love you. Thank you for what you do. You know I got your back and you are doing the work and I love you for it. There are lots of faithful pastors and there are some who are waking up. But I'll tell you what, as much as it hurts to say it, and I really mean that, it does hurt to say this, I don't know why these evangelical elites, even the ones who claim that they are conservative theologically, I do not know why they are not mad about the Olympic Games. They're not mad about it. They're like, hey, everybody calm down. It's still good to watch the Olympic Games. These people worked really hard. Don't punish the athletes. No, I'm boycotting this poop. Done with it. Done with it. Don't do that. It's so mean. We have to yell about it. We don't have to expect other people to have our values. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm sick of them coming for my kids. And it pains me to say, why aren't these evangelical elites, why aren't they protecting your children from the sexual revolution? It's a question worth asking. I'm not even going to give you an answer. I don't know why. I think it's a little frightening that they don't. I don't know. You tell me. Send me a comment. Tell me why they aren't. Why aren't they mad about the Olympics? Why aren't they mad that this is the most undemocratic thing I have ever seen? To just have, all right, boom, we're taking Joe Biden out. Kamala Harris is the new one, boom. And the whole media goes into full lying propaganda mode. Why aren't our evangelical elites mad about that? Democracy at threat. Why aren't they mad at the media for lying? And why aren't they mad at Kamala Harris and the media and the whole regime for lying about Biden's health? That means they've all been in on it. I told you that 4 weeks ago. The media was calling them cheap fakes. Seeing President Biden say crazy things and not finish his sentences and fall down, look like he doesn't know where he is. There's these are cheap fakes. It's right-wing propaganda. And the evangelical elites said it too. Oh, it's so frustrating. They're all in on it. So why aren't the evangelical elites upset about that? Why is the only thing they're upset about Christian nationalism and our tone when we say, you stay away from my kids, you perverts? Why is that the only thing they're upset about? Food for thought. You better buckle up. We're about to get into some weird territory. If you want to understand it on a deeper level, go to my website, johnlcooper.com. Go to Amazon, get my book, Wimpy, Weak and Woke. Have a good week. Peace.
Read the Bible.